Hi, everyone. I just wanted to pop on here and talk about what I've been doing. So, I recently picked up the Plan Your Year guide from Pam Barnhills, and I was super hesitant to get the book to begin with, just because, as you all probably know, I'm like crazy planner anyways. I love planning, and I was kind of like, well, I'm trying to change the way I look at planning and not be so nuts about what I'm doing, and change the style of how I do it to planning from behind, instead of being all gung-ho about making sure everything is ready and looks right, and also putting it into play with my little planners and my online planners and everything that I've used. But I listened to Pam's recent podcast and decided that I wanted to purchase this book and look through it. So I did, and I have got to tell you guys, it has changed so much of what I'm doing, besides what I've already started doing with Brave Writer and just my ability to let go of so much. So through this book, it is not a typical thing where you think you're going to plan your whole school year. Like, you're going to lay out your lessons plans and sit down and box it all out and have it all ready to go. That is not what this book is about. This book is about taking control of what's going to come and sitting down and looking at your year as a whole and figuring out what you want to do. So here's what it kind of has walked me through. It started out by, let me see what the first chapter was called. Okay, so this first chapter was called Casting a Vision. And she had you go through and think about what you want your homeschool to look like, what you're expecting to get out of homeschooling, why you homeschool, and what you want your kids to get, and what you want them to see in your homeschool. When they grow up, what you want them to say about what it looked like, what they want you to say about what they thought of you. So I've heard of these things tons and tons of times, and I've always just been like, oh, that's kind of silly. I don't really feel like doing that. Well, I finally went and did it, and it's awesome. I know that sounds silly, but it was so cool. So I took my time, and here's what I came up with. I know it's backwards for you guys, but this I'm going to stick in my binder to go back and forth with, and when I need to refocus what I'm doing, I'm going to look back at this. And what I did was, at the top was our homeschool vision, and it's a quick little blurb about why we homeschool. And in the book, she talks about it being your elevator something or other. Your elevator talk, I think is what it's called. So it's like three or four little lines that you can use and you can rehearse over and over again, so that when you come in contact with people that say, hey, why do you homeschool? You can give them a quick little rundown of why you homeschool, and you're not just like, because this is what we do. So just as a quick example, I'll read you what I wrote. I wrote, we homeschool because we want to be able to instill a love of God into our children, teach them according to a biblical worldview. We also want to we don't want to let man-made timelines influence how our children learn. We want to give them the opportunity to learn at their ability and potential without the pressure to perform to a test. So I made that up. That's, in a nutshell, why I want to continue homeschooling and why we've homeschooled from the beginning. And this might change or fluctuate even from year to year. So I think that's why she suggests you start there. You look at why you're doing this. Then I went down and I wrote what our rule was, what we want our days to look like. And I'll post a link so you can see, or a photo, so you can see what this actually looks like. But basically, it's like the things that we strive for, the things that we don't want. Like, as an example, I wrote, we want to be kind and compassionate. We want to seek God in all circumstances. We'll share stories with one another. We refuse to value academics over our relationships. We will give grace, and we will seek truth. Those are just a few of my things. So like I said, I'll post a picture so you can see what my total rundown looked like. I just thought this was really cool. And just because you can come back to it and say, hey, why am I feeling so insane? And when that happens, you can say, oh, this is why, because what you're doing is probably not lining up with what your goals and your vision is for your homeschool. So after that, she has you go through, and the next chapter goes through your goals. And you take your kids and you sit down with them and you write out goals for them. You write out what you want them to do, what you think they need improvement on, what you're hoping they get to. They are not simple goals like, I hope we complete, Matthew C. Gamma by 2020. Nope. It's not like that at all. It is literally, you write goals that are sustainable. Like, you know what? I hope that we can get through the lessons that I have planned at least this percentage or this amount on a weekly basis. Instead of sitting there and giving yourself unattainable goals, she really teaches you and walks you through how to make attainable goals for your kids. I don't have any of my printed off right now, so I can't give you any other ideas, but I'll post a picture of what I came up with too, so you can see those. After that, she has you start thinking about, so that was goals. Start thinking about what you want to do for your next school year. And so I already have kind of started doing that before I went to the convention and everything. I really started putting together what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go. So that was more of a rundown of, okay, this is what I should be thinking about, which is helpful. Just because sometimes you don't really know for certain subjects what you want to do. So she has something else in this book. She has these worksheets that you can work on right in here. You can make copies as much as you want, or you can go to her site and download a copy of this, and they're even typable. So you can type them on the computer, which I love. I actually ended up making my own templates because they were screwing up for me. So I don't know if they screw up for everybody, but it's nice because you can make them look really pretty. And for us OCD people like myself, it's really nice, which that's why all of my stuff is typed up anyways. So anyways, she has you write out what your plan is, what subjects you want to teach, what kind of schedule you want them to be in, like if you're going to do them a couple days a week or once a month, or, you can write down. And she even gives you at the end of each chapter, they're called action items, and she gives you a guide on what you want to go over to actually complete those items. So after that, she talks about creating schedules. But I'll tell you what, it is not creating a schedule like you think it usually is. And this was a huge shocker to me. She talks about taking our week, and instead of thinking a schedule like traditional schooling where they say, okay, at 9 o'clock we have math, at 9:20 we have, break, at 10 o'clock we go to music, whatever, and they run down their day like that. It is not like that. It is strictly by each week opening up your planner and saying, what do I have this week? You plug in those times. So if I have an appointment at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm going to have a grid type schedule that says 2 o'clock Wednesday is my meeting. So you'll see right here, here's the weekly plan example. So it just looks like a regular planner that you would purchase maybe, or, you could make one of these up. And so then I might put in on Tuesday at 2 o'clock right here, I would put, meeting. So whatever it is, appointment. So I would see, okay, so I only have from here to here, or from here to here, whatever it is you want to do for your day, to actually do school. What can I fit in there without making myself go crazy? Instead of thinking, well, I want to get all of this done, and I have to be done by this time, but I'm going to pack that schedule full and forget that, I really need to be done probably by 1 o'clock if I'm going to be sane to leave the house. So I need to make sure whatever I'm putting in my day that day revolves around that appointment so that I am not over stressing about what we're doing. So I just thought that was really cool. So she has you go through and put in all of your different appointments, different things that you have going on at specific times so that you can focus on when can I do school, not how am I going to, or I'm going to do school during these hours and that's it. So I thought that was wonderful. I thought that was a really great thought. She also takes time, and which I really, really enjoyed, the way that she went through. She talked about a traditional schedule where you go through and you think of a teacher planner where it would have like math, lesson 6, workbook page, whatever. And then you'd move on to language arts and you'd write what they're doing in language arts. And then your content subjects like history and science, you'd write exactly what they're doing in each box. And then you go through your daily plan like that. She talks about what that looks like. She then goes in and talks about block scheduling and what loop scheduling is and how to plan out your day and how to choose what is going to work for your family. And she lays them out so well that it makes sense. You're not sitting there curious like, well, I don't know. Or something else at school is when you've actually taken time to read through them, it opens up new ideas that maybe you didn't think of. This year, I took these ideas and I'm going to implement a block schedule and loop schedule, which I've known about loop scheduling. I'm loving the loop schedule. I think it works wonderfully. If you don't know about that, go ahead and private message me or drop a comment in there, and then I can go over it a little bit more with you, because that has saved me so much with being able to get more books in, being able to get more whatever, just different subjects that I would have probably never got to because it just would have been too much extra. So I was able to set up, here is my block schedule, and I'll drop a picture of this in there too so you can check it out. So I have 6 terms because we do about 6-week terms, and every 6 weeks or so we take a week off, and it works out to being around 30 to 36 weeks of school, somewhere in there. We kind of fly by it and see what happens. But so I broke our whole school year up into our 6 terms. And in that, I was able to break down what I wanted to do by each term. So math is obviously throughout, morning time is throughout, and morning time I have on a loop. So I'm using both types of scheduling within one. As well as I'm going to use some traditional scheduling when it comes to like our Aubrey's language arts. She's only going to be in 1st grade, and her traditional schedule is already written up through Sunlight with the language arts because I haven't moved her over yet. And so right there, I'm just going to use that because it's already made. So then over here, I have history throughout. We're going to do history all year. But then when I come down here, I have the first 2 terms, I have nature study. While it's a little warmer still, that's in the fall. And then the second 2 terms are going to be unit study. Those are going to be when we're inside more. So I think we're going to go and follow, I can't remember her name. She's at My Little Poppies, I think. She's one of the homeschool sisters in her podcast. I think I'm going to purchase the Lazy Unit Study guidebook and try and throw together a few unit studies that are super quick for when my kids have interests that we want to follow. So we're going to do those in the winter. And then the second half of the year, or I guess the third little 1/3 of the year, it's going to be nature study again, just because we are really, really enjoying getting outside and really focusing in on things of the world. So I figured we'd follow up the end with those just because it'll be warmer. We'll be ready to get outside again. And then lastly, I have another block down here, which is we're going to do typing the first 2 terms, and then we're going to have a music study, and then we're going to have art. So they'll all kind of go in 2-term chunks. So it'll be about 12 weeks for each chunk, but it gives me a basis. And actually, when we'll get there in a few minutes. So when I go over how I plan these out. So after you've gone through and you've put in all of your stuff, I have down here also a loop of the different things. So my morning time loop is right here. So we have memory work, Aesop's Fables, picture book, memory work, and bedtime math, so that I can go through these. And bedtime math is a really cool program I just heard of, actually through Pam's website. So this is just my loop that I'll work through. So when I'm finished with memory work, that day, if I have time, we'll read Aesop's Fable. And if I have more time, we'll do a picture book. And if we're done, we'll stop there and we'll pick up the next day at memory work and bedtime math. And we just keep circling through the loop so that I'm never really feeling behind and we're constantly hitting You'll notice I have 2 memory works on there. It's because I want them to get that a few more times in the week than just, once every so often. So over here I have Bible time, different things that we're going to use for Bible time that I can pick from each day, and my read alouds. Those will happen. I'll pick one from each of those, or as the read aloud, I'll have both of those going because they're 2 separate books. And then over here, I even put myself some busy work ideas. I've totally casted out everything that's super busy work because we started with Becca, which was total busy work, and I've scaled back so much that I was just so sick of having my kids sit at the table all day doing nothing. And something profound in this book came to me. There is a beauty in busy work at certain times. And so I think I'm going to still bring some things in that when I'm working with somebody else, it'll give me quick ideas to say, okay, you're going to go over and work with this right now. And my ideas were like a math fact sheet, maybe a computer game. My kids have been super into the Adventure Academy, the new ABC Mouse for older kids. And then Aubrey's still just the younger one with ABC Mouse. Maybe a drawing book, coloring, magazine, something off the read aloud shelf that's our hands-on little activities that are quiet. I'm hoping these will be good for me just to glance at and say, hey, I'm working with so-and-so. This is what you're to be doing. Just to give them something, because I find as soon as they're gone, and I've lost them. So anyways, that's the block schedule, sort of loop schedule, and how I'll make that work. So again, she has all these planner sheets. So this is your block schedule planner, but I, of course, went and remade it on my Excel sheet because it was easier. But she does have them online too. She has an example of a loop schedule. She has a daily plan rundown that you can use, and I think that was it. And then a traditional scheduling page too. From there, she has you work up what's called a procedure list or lesson planning. And she talks about like open and go, things that you need procedure lists for. And what was the other one? Oh, and then making out a full-on lesson plan for curriculum that doesn't have anything already set up. So my ones that needed a procedure list. Basically a procedure list is something that, okay, I know I'm going to do the same things every time I open up this particular curriculum, but it doesn't have a list for me. So I'm making my own list. So it's essentially now open and go because I don't have to think about it. So when it's time for these 3 subjects that we have coming up, these are the ones that I have a procedure list for. So I have it for math, my arrow guides from Brave Writer, and nature study. These are all the points I want to hit. The arrow guide is, actually all of them are in the week. I want to be able to hit all these points in 1 week. So for math, they have to watch their math video because we do Math UC. They have to work on their lessons with me, their examples on the board. And then we do build, write, say. I have to be reminded we need to get them doing that. They have to do their math lesson sheet. We want to make sure we do some mental math problems during the week and then some kind of math game just to make it fun, break it up. For the arrow guide, it's the same thing. We have read pages, grammar and spelling for the week, copy work, dictation, literary element, and the writing activity. This is just so that I see, okay, I need to hit on these points for my week. And last day I have nature study. I wrote go for a walk, choose items to draw in a book, take time to draw out and put into detail, research items, and write a couple of facts. So that's it. That just makes it so that I can open up, and when it's time for math or our arrow or nature, I know this is what we're doing today because we haven't done this, or this is where we are. So I just think that's really nice. Before I actually was able to make this list, I created this list, and she includes this form in the book. And it basically has you take all of the curriculum that you're going to use and break it down into what style it is. So there's open and go, procedure lists, and lesson plan lists. So our open and go, we have quite a bit. We have history, typing, our cursive, and our writing projects. They're already ready and laid out for me. I just have to open up to the page we're on and do the next thing. So I don't have to do anything with them. Our procedure lists were the ones that I showed you I typed, so I made those up and made them ready. And the ones that I needed to create a lesson plan for was art, unit study, and music. So I went through. So you saw my procedure list. Open and go is pretty explanatory. I made up my music lesson plan. So this is my music front and back. It's actually, I left some margin, so I only planned for 10 weeks because we all know, even though there might be 12 weeks for this particular 2-term session, I'm never going to have 12 consecutive weeks of actually getting the work done. So I planned for 10 weeks, and that gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Each week we have 2 days of, when music's going on, we'll have 2 days of music. So, well, here's week 1. So week 1, I wrote day 1 and day 2. So this is what we would do in day 1. And essentially for this one, I just took, sorry, let me get this book over here. I didn't think about it till just now. So I got these books from Usborne. They came with absolutely nothing, but I really want to use it because my kids haven't really had much exposure to classical music at all, or composers. So I just thought this would be fun. So I took these books and I opened them up into the table of contents, and we looked through, and I seen what we were studying, and I picked through this one. Most of them are, okay, so day 1, we have, classical music reference book. So the first day of the week that we do music, we're doing it out of this book. And so like on day 1, I have what is classical music. So that's the very first section. It's right here. We're going to read these 2 pages. We're going to do the QR link because it'll actually bring up some cool videos. I love these books from Usborne because of the QR links. So it'll bring up some actual music that's going on that's pertaining to this. And then if we have time, if I'm up for it, we're going to go to the Quick Links website, and we're going to mess around with these pages on there too. Sometimes they have different historical things or different videos that pertain to it that you can pull up on YouTube, coloring pages. They have so much. So that would be day 1. Then on day 2, I chose this book. It's just another one. This one is now Famous Composers. So on day 2, it says the first composers was what I'm going to study. So I'll open up. Oh, and just so you know, I didn't get through all of these. Most days have 2 composers. And then at the end, when I got to almost finishing the book, I went through and just picked a few that I really wanted to try and have them study. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open up to these 2 pages. We'll read them together. We'll scan the link. And these ones will actually get to listen to a whatever this music is. So this one says, scan the code to listen to some music by Jacquin, or I don't know how to say that. So we'll actually get to listen to some of his music. So, and then we'll just keep going, and we'll continue through until we're finished. And each day I'll be able to check off where I'm at. So I literally created a plan. It took me maybe 15 to 20 minutes to create up a quick plan. But now, when it's time to view music, it's like I have an open and go curriculum. I can just grab my book that I need and go, just like if someone else had made it for me. I did the very same thing for art. And my art book was also an art book from Usborne. So it's the Art Treasury. And what I did was, so I did the exact same layout, 2 days a week. It's at a different time, during the same time that I would probably do music. This will probably take a little longer time, so I need to plan for that. But I went through and I typed in what page we're working on, and then what supplies I need, because that's huge. When you're doing art projects, there's nothing worse than trying to get something out and then being like, oh, I don't have it. So I went through and I wrote down each art supply that we need. So for day 1, we're studying Hendrik Averkamp, and I'll show you real quick what it looks like in the book. But it says we need paper, watercolor paints, and a straw. So then I'll just go to my book, open it up to page 16. Sorry if this is like too much information, but just thought you'd like a good overview. All right, so they'll get to read a little bit about the history of him. And depending on what we're doing, I may have the kids read it aloud to one another, and I'll just sit there and help them through the words they stumble. They get to see an example of the painting that this particular artist did, and then it teaches us how to do it as an example. So then I just read through each of these particular steps, and I wrote down the mediums and the things that we would need to create a picture that looks like that. So they'll get to try it themselves. And I just kept going through. See, they'll do this one, and I just went through and picked ones that one would have access to materials. Like this one's super simple. You just need pipe cleaners and some colored cardstock kind of paper. And there's a really cool one later on. Where's that one at? Let me see here. Oh, if I can find it. Can't find it. It's made out of tin foil. Oh, here it is. Foil figures. So I thought that was really cool. They'll get to make that. And that's from Alberto Giacometti. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. But they get to see what the actual looked like. It's kind of weird looking. But I think my kids will think it's fun to make some of these things. So I also included, I looked at each time that we were creating something. And so if you see on week 8, right here, this was a really big project. It has to dry. There's some painting that's involved, and it's going to need to dry before we do the next step. So I planned for the second day to just continue. We're going to just finish up that project so it's done, and I don't have to worry about rushing through it this day. I also planned for a few days to where we can review the artists we've learned about, talk about them, see what they remember about them, and they can even choose, if we have time that day, they can choose to do another example of that again. They can try it again if they want to. So again, I did 10 weeks for art just because we all know it's not going to happen. I'm not going to get 12 weeks, even though I planned for 12 weeks. Gives me a little bit of leeway, though, for my days that get busier or the days that the kids are just done and they can't handle it. And I'm done too. So she continues on in the book. She talks about different styles of planners that you can purchase. If you don't want to use a planner, you don't have to. She talks about what they all look like, which I think are fantastic. I think this is honestly the best book I've ever got or read. Sorry, I'm trying to get these back in order. That puts it all out there in what planning really should look like, rather than us all just feeling like, well, I don't know, we're just going to throw something together for the year. Real quick, before I get off of here, I want to show you what I'm going to use for next year. So I have been super crazy. I feel like every year I change the way I plan out our school year. And I change the sheets. We've used these little clipboards back here, which you've probably seen pictures of. I've posted that before. We've used the Homeschool Planet, the online planner. We've used, oh my gosh, I've used, I swear, everything. I've used the Super Teacher Planner where I write everything out even though it's already written and it's stupid. I've done it all, I swear. This year through lots of learning, through lots of podcasts and people and blogs and classes that I've been taking, I think, maybe not. I think I finally found which way I really like and think will be the most beneficial to our house and our kids and my sanity. So I have decided towards the end of this last school year, I know we just pretty much finished yesterday, but towards the end of this last year, I decided to change. I threw out our sheets, I threw out our online planner, and we went to planning to a spiral notebook. Those of you who follow Sarah Mackenzie from Read Aloud Revival, if you don't, you need to because she's wonderful. She's where I get a lot of my book recommendations from. Anyways, she has a great blog post out there that talks about spiral notebooking. And my kids want to know what they're supposed to do every day because they want to know when they're going to be done. And I'm changing it to where I'm not writing anything down because I need less pressure. I need it to be, today this is what we get to and we're done. And when I'm ready to be done, we're done and that's it. So, but kids still want something. So what I'm doing is they're going to get to pick out a new one. When school supplies come out, I'm going to let them get a new pretty one that they like. Right now, Liam's is just a wolf thing, and Emery's is this different one. It's just a spiral. You can use a cheap 10-cent notebook, really. But I go in and each night before or early morning before we start school, and actually let me get one real quick. Hang on. Where are they at? All right. So this is Emery's. So I go in early in the morning or the night before, and I've wrote down what we have to do for the day, or what they have, or what she has particularly for this notebook. And so on this day, this was April 23rd, I wrote, morning time. We did a wordplay activity, her math that she was expected, reading. We were doing a nature walk, math class online, and her book that she was reading. Those are the bare bones of what she's going to be expected to do, so that she knows a little bit about what's coming up in her day. And I'll even write on here, if we have something special going on, like tonight, for Liam, I would write, tonight is soccer. So he would know, oh, I have soccer tonight. And I would write, like on this one, I said, you are my favorite 9-year-old girl. And it's funny, she wrote in there 9.5. She wrote a half next to it. And she also added these little things to me, like, can we do it at the pond? And read on my nature walk maybe, and what else? Here at the pond maybe. So it's kind of funny. She gets to kind of go back and forth with me too. And Liam does the same thing. So it's just a simple spiral notebook, but I think it's been really nice. Something that Sarah talks about in her blog about it is digital is wonderful. And honestly, I love, love, love Homeschool Planning. I think it's a wonderful program, and I would still be using it, to be honest with you, just because it was really cool the way it's laid out. But for where I'm going in my homeschool, I just don't think it was where we needed it. But she talks about how it's really easy for on a online or a digital planner to copy and paste and move things over, and you can load up your schedule so much that you're so busy and you don't realize how much is really there. When you write out your spiral notebook for your kids, if you're getting to the bottom of your page and your hand is cramping and you're done writing it, think about how your kid's going to feel when they're trying to do it. When she said that, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, that's me. I'm the one that's like, ooh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to have this too. And I overschedule too much in our day. So this notebook was able to make me see, okay, what's the bare minimum? What do I want her to do? We'll add more if we want to, and we'll take away if we need to. So, in changing the kids, I also changed mine, which I kind of briefly mentioned. I changed it to be, I do a spiral notebook as well. And this is just a simple 5-star notebook, nothing special. And here's today. Even though we're done with school, we still did stuff today because I can't stand sitting here all day and listening to them gripe and moan and complain about everything. So this was today. I went through and wrote down what we did. I didn't write what I wanted to do. I just decided, okay, we sat down and I even wrote in here, basement finishing day 1, because our basement started getting finished today. The contractors were here. Math. We did some math today. So I wrote what we did. We did a multiplication book, and we did 3 problems on the board together. Then I wrote reading, and the kids had to go off and read something. So I wrote down what they read, what pages they read, so I knew. And then I did some read aloud time. That's all we did today. So, and that's really all we'll do if we ever do anything during the summer. But just gives me a quick rundown. But I'll tell you what, there was no pressure for me to complete a list. I still got to write out what I was doing. I still got to kind of check my boxes like, ooh, we did this, yay. And actually for a little while I was putting boxes next to the things I wrote down and checking them, even though we already did them. And I write down like our picture books we do, just whatever we're doing, whatever it is that I feel counts, I write down. If my kids get in trouble about something and we're working on attitudes, I write it down. Because you know what? I want to be able to look back and say, when was the last time we dealt with this? Or when was the last time we did this? Or we've been dealing with this for a while. We really need to, check this. So, that's just an example. So, this fall, I splurged because I love my planners. And I didn't really want to just buy another stupid, plain old boring one. So I splurged and I went to Erin Condren again. And I purchased a notebook from them. I didn't purchase a planner because I didn't want the pressure of a planner. So I will show you what I got. You can customize these. They're kind of expensive. I think this was $20 or $25. But I really like how it's going to work. Her planners are just so well made. The covers are interchangeable. I chose Be Brave on the front just because I feel like my whole year has been around that phrase. Brave, brave writer, the brave learner, brave homeschooling, just being brave to continue doing this job over and over again. So I chose Joshua 1:9 as our life verse about being strong and courageous and just being here. And so that's what I chose for my cover. But you can change them. You can buy other covers. So there's little quotes throughout. I also purchased this extra little flappy thing. It's a dashboard. But this is kind of cool. It has top priorities. You can put habits in there. And then on the back, it even has Monday through Sunday. You can use like a wet erase. That's what I would suggest because then it won't come off. You can just wipe it off when you're done with water and a paper towel. But it's nice because it's like a bookmark and you can use it. I'm thinking maybe I'll write things on here that I need to do in the day, maybe my to-do list or something. And this just snaps out. It can come right out and you can move it to the next day when it's time. There was 3 different styles of paper that you could choose from. I could do all lines, so it was a normal notebook, lines with a to-do list down the side, or you could do a bullet journal. So I chose lines and a to-do list, and then on the back it's just straight lines. I don't know if you can see that. But, yeah, and then they even include in the back, if I can get there, some stickers. So I'm thinking up here we'll write the date, and maybe I'll put over here my reading list that we did for the day, or maybe my stuff that I have in my household stuff to put down the side to make me feel like, oh, if I vacuumed, I'm going to write it because I did that today. Or if I did laundry and I did however many loads of laundry, I'm going to write it down because I did that today. So at the end of my day, I can say, this is all I did today, not just feel like we didn't do anything. So I'm super excited. I might even start using it soon because I want to instead of waiting for fall. But anyways, so that is essentially how I'm planning my year. I am pretty much already ready to go now for fall because I've spent the last 2 weeks in my somewhat free time, not real free time. I have taken time to go through Pam Barnhills' book and really sat down and pecked everything out that I wanted to do. I have not much left to really worry about. I can pretty much open up my stuff when I'm ready to start school again and go for it, which I think is fantastic. It's a super huge relief to have all of that in a row without even knowing it. So, or without not knowing it, without even really having to put too much effort into it. It took me maybe over the course of 2 weeks, probably about 10 to 15 hours or so, I think, to do it. I spent a lot of time in the evenings doing it because we were still doing school. But anyways, that's just a quick overview. Go get her book. It's wonderful. I really, really highly, what is the word I'm looking for? I suggest it to everybody now. So let me know what you guys are doing too. If you get it, let me know too, because I just think it's cool. All right. Well, happy planning and happy summer. It's almost summer for everybody, I know. So, all right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.